When did you start experiencing migraine?
So I'm just shy of my 77th birthday. And it was probably, I don't remember the exact time, but pretty much in my early 50s, somewhere in there. And it's a very simple story. I was sitting and doing an interview. As you said, I worked in schools all my life. I was an teacher, then an administrator, and then I headed two schools. And so in the second school that I headed, I was talking to a great candidate. And I remember trying to be as, oh, you know how you are when you're trying to hire somebody, you're trying to be as charming as you can be and let them know that this is going to be a perfect fit. And then suddenly, while I'm looking at her, her head rises double. So I'm looking at two heads standing in front of me. And her shoulders went up. So I'm looking at two sets of shoulders and two sets of arms. And then some zigzag lines start up and down like this. So I finished the interview as quickly as I possibly could, having no idea what was going on with me. And immediately when I ushered her out of the door, by then I was back just to zigzag lines, but I could see better again. I called my doctor. My doctor was highly responsive and got on the phone with me and said, "Sounds like you're having a migraine aura to me." And the first thing I thought of was, I have no idea what a migraine aura is. I'd never heard of it.
So what did you think was happening to you? Did you think you were, having a stroke or a brain aneurysm?
Yeah, Paul, I wasn't thinking. As far as I'm concerned, I was absolutely positive I was about to die. Right then and there in my office, just kind of like that. And I could imagine the 500 kids in my school all streaming by me to say goodbye. I was positive I was having a stroke. And when I called the doctor's office, my primary care physician, I explained to the desk what was going on, and he said, "Migraine aura." And my response was, "What's that?"
If you've battled migraine for a while, you know this disease can strike out of the blue. It leaves you and your plans just reeling. It can throw you off balance both literally and figuratively, and when your experience is far different than your expectations, well, that can be the worst.
Most people kind of expect migraine will get better with age, but as today's guest can tell you, that's not always the case. He juggled migraine and a highly stressful job, then retired thinking he'd be able to restore his health. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. But what he discovered was a more stable, steady approach to managing the disease that may encourage you to do the same.
So welcome to Me versus Migraine, our series where we dive into compelling stories of real people who are battling this disease. And in each episode, you're going to take away insightful nuggets to make living with migraine a little easier and less painful. I'm Paula K. Dumas, producer of Migraine World Summit and editor-at-large at Everyday Health and Migraine Again.
I'm Carl Cincinnati, founder of the Migraine World Summit, executive director at Migraine at Work, and director of operations at Migraine and Headache Australia.
How often do these attacks come today?
Okay, today I'm pretty chronic, so they often will last 4 to 7 days long, and probably 16 to 18 days of the month. I'll go back to this primary care physician. He did a quick examination, and he decided that I had not had a stroke. He was able to tell that. And he did 3 referrals at that point. So referral 1 was to an ophthalmologist, just in case something was going on with my eyes. Referral 2 was to a neurologist. And that I also was able to get in because of his referral within the week. And the third referral that he made was to a headache specialist, a neurologist as well in the Boston area, who he said it's going to be 9 months to a year.
Yeah, I do think that migraine morphs over the course of your life and it kind of expresses itself in different ways. But as you tell your story, I'm thinking, boy, that period when you were in your 50s and you're managing 200 staff and, long hours, the stress level has got to be greater than what you're experiencing today. Yet today, the severity of your disease is worse. Is that right?
Yes.
This is a good example of if somebody's listening and you've got a complex case, you need to see a specialist, even if it takes you 9 months to get in, and even if you have to travel to get there.
This process, whatever is going on in the brain, tends to change over time. The pathophysiologists who come and speak to you will talk about peripheral and central sensitization, but ultimately, at around 39 or 40 and into the most productive years in a person's life, for women, and men, of course, have migraine as well, so the analogy is somewhat similar, they have the most headaches that are the most bothersome and the hardest to treat. Over time, things start to change again. Sometimes they can continue to have the aura, if they have migraine with aura, because 20% of migraine is with aura, and the aura can persist well into the 50s and 60s. And sporadically, it can produce what we call transient migraine accompaniments, right? They can develop these visual auras predominantly, or speech, or arm numbness, or difficulty with speaking, which come on in a flurry over a few days, and then they disappear. And they say, aha, it's gone away. But it hasn't gone away, because things change.